Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill. This is Beyond Code Live, and we are now in, what is it, part 7, I think, of this PayoPal Checkout payments series. Well, the payment series is going to be long, because we're going to go through, probably going to go through a bunch of payments, eventually, all in all. But today, we need to link up. So I got this nice checkout with PayPal button. It works. Amazing. The downside is that you can pay, but it doesn't get tracked where it goes to. So we haven't pushed this live yet, and we certainly won't before we fix that. So that's going to be the main focus right now. And then I had for you, because I'd been talking about this whole who to follow thing that I'm starting for the channel. And so yesterday or last time, I said one of the people that you ought to follow is Matt Holt. He's a Go engineer. He wrote Caddy. He does a lot of great stuff. And so but I didn't have the link to his YouTube channel. So now I have the link to his YouTube channel. So I'm going to put that in here. Let's see if we can, oh, it's going to get all messed up. So we'll do it this way, I guess. Okay. So that's Matt Holt. And then today I wanted to make mention of Jonathan Colton because he made the song Code Monkey. So if you have not listened to Code Monkey and you are a Code Monkey, then you ought to listen to Code Monkey. All right, that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. But first, a message from our sponsor, but not really our sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. It's time to open focus. And how did that splatter all the way over here? Seriously, that doesn't even make any sense. Okay, let's clean that up. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and the one other thing, I did something I had never imagined that I would do. I bought a space heater for the office because I had never imagined that even in the dead of winter, it would get cold enough to need any additional heat aside from the computers. But they've just gotten so efficient these days. So I guess they're just not generating as much heat as they used to. So I had to get a little space heater. So I've got one now. All right. Well, with that all out of the way, now for realsies, I will go ahead and get started. And yes, I did say for realsies. Okay, so yeah. So if we click this button, it's actually going to go through. It's going to do some cool stuff. I think what I need to do is I think I need to hide settings until the user has signed in. And this shouldn't be hard. I'm just going to take a stab at it real quick. Let me make this a reasonable size again. And then let's see. Okay, yeah, there's our whatchamajigs going on with the keys is up there. And we'll make that a little cleaner. So now there's only one tab open. Okay, I'm going to take a shot at that. We are going to go into, I think it's, yeah, index.html. Oh, I need to be in the other window. No, the other window. No, the other window. Yeah, of course. All right, so here we are. And I'm going to go into index.html. And I'm just going to look for the GitHub sign in, because I thought I had put something here. Yeah. So JS guest. So you can only see this when you're not signed in, and then JS authenticated. So things that are JS authenticated, you will only see when you are signed in. So I think we're going to do that for settings. And what we might do is flippy do. I want to have another one that's for pricing. If you are not on a tier or upgrade, I don't really know what it ought to be. But let me go ahead and give this a refresh. I think I'm going to pull this out into its own tab real quick. I'm sorry for all the burping. I guess sorry, not sorry. If we were just friends and we were hanging out, I'd burp even louder, if I'm being honest. But the Mountain Dew, I guess the talking and the Mountain Dew, because I was just chugging Mountain Dew by myself and I wasn't constantly talking. I don't think I have to burp every 5 seconds, but things we do for the fans, am I right? Okay, so that did not work out as expected. And this is the beta site, so it should have worked because I'm not signed in. And so now I'm curious as to why that didn't work. So I'm going to go through and take a look at JS Authenticated. First thing I probably ought to do. Whoa. Come on. Whoa, what is going on? Oh, right. Was it this? No, hold on. Control A, Control E? No. Control A, A? Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I forgot I was in screen. I'm in screen. Okay, JS Authenticated. And then, I wonder why that's not working out. Oh, I didn't have it hidden by default. That's why. Okay. Let's go back and let's say the default state here is going to be hidden. Now I suspect that that'll work quite nicely. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So the problem that we have with that's not going to work out quite right. So we're going to have class is JS Authenticated. We're going to need to have that there, and then we're going to need to have this hidden, not that. Reason being, we need the list item to be hidden so it doesn't reserve space for it and then just not show the text, which is what's happening right now. And I heard my phone buzz. And I don't expect anything important, but let me just see. Oh, it's letting me know that I should go to bed. Yeah, right, phone. You don't know me. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I guess we can get there still. I'll have to do something about that as well at some point, I suppose. And, man, there's a lot of things I want to do here. One of them is separate out new post from posts. We're going to stay on task real quick. Okay, so one of the things I need to do is I have not implemented the token refresh endpoint. I don't know why, but I haven't. And now it's time to implement that. But I don't know if I want to do that right now with this, what we're doing here. I might have to. I might have to cross the streams a little bit. Because, let's see, is there a simpler way I could do it, a cheaper way I could do it? I think it's, I don't want to explore that right now. I'm thinking about how I can get away from that. Okay. So there's a couple things that are going to happen. Because I've deleted the database. Well, there we go. That makes a lot more sense. Why was that so big? Let's see. I don't want to mess with this. We're just gonna start over here. Oh, wait a minute. What's this about? That's not good. We should not be having an error reading properties. Oh, hold on a second. env. Yeah, env's right there. All right, something went wrong here. Depths. Okay. Sorry, this is not related to the task at hand, but I was messing around And I moved something to the wrong place, apparently. Oh yeah, I was going to work on that build thing. Hold on, let me put the to-do in here. I was going to make a build script for this. And I was halfway through that. Whoops. I think I need to do, what is it, npm run gen env? Env gen? Let me take a look and see what we got here. Nope. Maybe it's node gen env. Yeah, we'll just run node gen env. Okay. So simple enough on that. Okay. So this one is the bit that isn't implemented. And the reason it's not implemented is because we don't have the cookie session there yet, I think. So this really belongs in another video. Yeah, missing or invalid cookie session. So, we'll see. What else? What else was I looking at? So under deps, we've got AJ query, so we don't need AJ query here, right? And we've got the XTZ, and we've got debouncer, and we've got passphrase. So we don't need those things here at the top level anymore. Okay, let me go back into our to-dos for this and see what I can knock off without having to go through the authentication bit. So we can create a table for payments. And what we can do, well, we need another thing that we need in here. Really, that's just payments. Because so we get a webhook. We get a webhook when the subscription is created, but we also get a webhook when the payment happens. And so they happen in sequence. So it's actually 3 webhooks. Subscription's created, then subscription is activated if the user clicks approve. And then the payment comes through. So there's 3 webhooks, and I think we get some user information with those webhooks. By the way, I see some people joined in. Hello and welcome. I'm AJ. What's your name? What brings you to the channel tonight? I'd love to know. But yeah, so if we just handle the payments right now and we handle the user's email address, we could actually sign them in and use payment as a method of sign-in, and that would kind of get us around our little problem right now. Let's try that. Let's take that route. Okay, so we're going to let somebody create a subscription, but we might not know who they are. So this might mean that we need to change, well, we need to change the database with a couple of things. So I might change the name of this from add subscriptions to add payments, because it's going to include a payment table as well. So let's see here. Currently, we say that you're not allowed to have a subscription without having a user, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to say, yeah, we are allowed to have a subscription without having a user. And I'm going to say there's a couple of things that I wanted to add in here. We're gonna say, okay, you can have an email. So you can have an email or a user. So somebody could start going through the process. Let's see, I don't even know if we want to bother. If we don't have an email and we don't have a user, then yeah, we still want to put this in here. And here's the reason why. You never know where a system's going to fail. And when it comes to payments, you don't want it to, you want to minimize as much as possible the possibility that someone makes a payment and doesn't have a way of communicating with you. You don't have a way of communicating with them, that you lose, that you lose the record. I see that comment just popped in, and I'll get there in just 1 second. I'll give you the overview. So what we want to do is anytime the person clicks the PayPal button, we're going to create one of these records, and we might not have any user information, but if we get back the user information, or if they approve, we should get their email in the approval. And we should also get a webhook of the approval, which should have their email in it. So both of those events would have, all three. No, it's not possible for them to start the process because we could miss the redirect somehow. There could be a network error. There is a slight chance we could miss the redirect. And then there's also a slight chance that we could miss the webhook. And so we need to make sure that we at least record they initiated the process. And we're going to get a bunch of junk entries there where somebody who's not logged in starts the process and doesn't finish it. And we'll just have to clean those out after so many days. If we see things are just, laying there and there's no email address, there's no user ID, whatever. So that's what we'll have to do with that. And then I do want to do this payments. And I almost wish that I'd called products bundles because that's really what it is. Now I'm going to answer your question, Thilarn. So on a high level, is a webhook something like when X happens, broadcast a message? A webhook is not really a broadcast of a message. It's I send the user to PayPal. On the PayPal website, they're getting a screen that has my company information. They click the approve button. PayPal is going to do whatever it needs to do on its end to have basically it's an asynchronous response is how you could think of it with HTTP. So rather than making a request and then waiting for the response, which would time out after 2 minutes, a web request is when the service makes a request back to you with something to help identify the previous part of the transaction, and then you complete it. So a normal HTTP request is I make a request and I get a response. A webhook is typically a service that you're logged into or have API tokens for. That way it knows that you're authentically you. And you send it a request and it says, I'll get back to you. And then at some point it sends a request to your server. That's what a webhook is. Good. Okay, so I've got this table. We're going to call it payments. And it's going to have a lot of duplicate information here. So yeah, because we're gonna have the subscription receipt. And I don't know if this is really. Let's say maybe we should call this external. External ID. Remote ID, service ID. I don't know. Because this is really the receipt of the payment. This is confirmation ID. I don't know what to call this, but it's related to the payment service. We could call it payment service ID. I don't really like that name, but I think it's the best one. It's really like, this is what it is. It's the payment service subscription ID. I don't know, but that's just, it's too long. I can't do it. I'm just call it external ID or service ID, remote ID. I don't know. Because we've got the UUID. This is the internal ID for our system. Yeah, I'm just going to call it external ID. Okay, we're going to have created at, and then there is not going to be an updated at for a payment. Well, I guess there could be because the payment, we could refund the payment. So we're going to say, but I'm not implementing refunding right now. So I don't know if there's anything I need to do here. We're going to have created at, because we're not going to delete a record. Never delete a record of a subscription or a payment or anything like that. In general, I'd say don't delete records from your database. Although that's not always practical. And if you do have an event store, then your event store is what keeps all of the data. And it would keep it in a semi-structured format that if you need to go replay data, you can. But there's a trade-off there. But you probably should have an event store, and you need to not delete important records from a database. I kind of feel like tonight is a to-do night, but no, it's not because I got to get to sleep in a few hours. Okay. What else? So we got payment service. Do we have something like that here? And we're going to need the email in here as well. We don't need the plan for payments. We do need to know what payment service it came through. We do need the receipt. And maybe this should be called receipt ID because it's going to relate to the payment service. So we can go look up. We don't need to store all of the information here. We probably need to have the price here. Oh, also that reminds me of another thing. Where were those X adders at? So I definitely came to the realization that we need to have the PayoPal Checkout. Okay, and I already added that. So, and I don't think we should have X adders. I'm not going to fix this now, but yeah, I already got the note there. Rather than stuffing lots of things into X adders, I think we should have multiple JSON columns that each have the information that might be needed. Well, let's see. Let me think about this. Yeah, okay, in the products one, in the plans one, yes, whatever we're doing, let me move this out down lower. Yeah, whatever we're doing, however many systems we support, we need to store the data in the way that system understands it, or we need to have some sort of mapper. But certainly we need to know whether or not we've stored, if we support both PayPal and Stripe, then we need to have our product information triplicated. It needs to be in our local database, it needs to be in PayPal, and it needs to be in Stripe. That way the payments can go any which way. Now, of course, I'm not going to be using Stripe. I've talked about why before. PayPal I'm using because it's ubiquitous. Stripe I'm not using because I'm already using PayPal, which is already a weak service. So PayPal and Stripe are both high risk to you. They're considered non-high risk services, which means that they are high risk to you. It means that they will cancel your account at any time without warning and not necessarily give you support people to talk to get things resolved. Or not necessarily cancel, but freeze or whatever. Anyway, so back to this. So we're going to have the payments here. We're going to have payment service. We're going to have email. We probably should have amount. And I think somewhere else here I used price. Maybe price is different when you pay it. Actually, so sometimes I like to have variable names consistent. Sometimes the change in state makes sense for the variable name to be different. So when we talk about price, that is price on the shelf. That's not necessarily what you paid. There might be a discount. So what you pay is let's say amount paid. So let me go back up to payments here. So we might have here amount paid. And this would be, we're going to keep this as a string. And the reason for that is because you either store money as strings or as ints. You don't store money as floats because floats are approximate and they cannot hold certain values. For example, as I've demonstrated numerous times, but I'll demonstrate again because we're talking about it right now, 0.1 plus 0.2 is, of course, not something that a computer can calculate accurately using IEEE floating point math. You have to use a BigInt library for that. So if I were to do, I can't use BigInt for that. There's other arbitrary precision ways of doing math. But yeah, I would have to convert the unit to the smallest value. So hundredths of a dollar would be cents, or maybe I'm working with tenths of cents or whatever, but you have to convert things to the smallest value and then do integer math on it with BigInt if you're in JavaScript. And then some generally, I think that's the way that you go about it in most languages if you want to get accurate math for things such as money. Okay, so we got our currency code, amount paid, we got our payment service, we've got our receipt. We're going to tie the user. That makes sense. We're going to tie the payment service. That makes sense. Oh, these can go down further. We're going to have a created at. We're not necessarily going to have an updated at. I will add an updated at in another migration if I feel that we need one. But this is kind of a one shot. It represents... we could put a field here that says refunded, for example, or canceled. That might make sense. Just to, because if it's a bank, so for example, today my wife got a fake charge on her debit card. It was some malicious charge, and so the bank did not erase the charge. They simply credited her the amount that she was charged. So the charge was denied, and then it was recredited to the account. And I think the same thing makes sense to do here. The difference is that we want to know, we might want to query this table to see if the user has a particular status on their account. And so I think this might need a product, which I kind of want to rename product, like I said, to bundle, because bundle could be one item, but it could be multiple items. I'm not quite sure how I want to relate this yet. But, and then product would be, I don't know if that should be nullable or not. I want to say it should be not nullable. So all of this, yeah, I don't know. Okay, and then we'd have a reference to the product as well. Let's see. But if there's a payment, the payment is probably for a product. Or, then it kind of begs the question, maybe there's payments, there's account balance. So maybe this is actually the right way to do it, is say the person signs up for something, they owe a certain amount of money. So there's a bill due. So we say, and I'll get to your question in just a second here. So they say, I want this thing. And we say, okay, you can have this thing. And that is a bundle. Let me write this down. So thoughts. I want this thing. Bundle. I get my card approved. So say authorization. Okay. Then product thing is added to my account. So now I have a bill with amount due. That's a bill, right? And then after that, we say payment is received, and this is it's a payment. So maybe this is the process, because this is something that I said a few episodes ago. Honestly, I haven't worked in this space a lot, and I haven't thought much about how the payment process really needs to move. But I think this is it. Thing is added to my account with amount due. So that is my plan plus my bill. This is really two things. This needs to be broken down into two things, because then, so let's say I get a gold sticker on my account. That's one action. And I get an amount due on my account. So my account is updated. So let's say like this. Thing is added to my account. Amount due is added to my account. So this is my, Gold Star Pro member status. And then amount due is added to my account. And then every month I would have some time that things are due, and then some time that thing is paid. And if when a batch job runs and does a calculation, so let's say a batch job runs to calculate that accounts have greater than or equal to zero balance. So then that makes sense. Because then if I refund from my account, then either I have to negate the bill and remove the gold star, or I have a negative balance. So I think that's the way that the payment process needs to work, which now everything is very, rather than thinking of things as together, here's a process that happens. I purchase a subscription and that's a thing. No. It's really 6 different pieces, or is it 6 different pieces here? But it's quite a few. So not nullable, meaning that the variable must have a value. Yes. So in a database, all columns are either nullable or not nullable. And nullable means that it's similar to undefined in JavaScript. There's nothing there. There's not even the empty value. There's nothing. And with not nullable, it will cause a database error if you do not specify. So you could put in an empty value such as 0, or an empty string, or an empty object. Well, that would be a string because it'd be JSONified. Yeah, you have to have some sort of value there. And there's a key difference in the way that databases are optimized. So nullable fields can be collapsed. So I've talked about this before. You could have a database that is many, many fields wide. So when I was talking with Will about the possible way of putting this together, one thought, which I'm kind of coming back around to for part of this, now that I understand it better, and this also is a testament again to emergent design. I didn't know the answer. I needed to think through it with someone else. I came to what I thought was a reasonable conclusion, and then I started coding. And as I started coding, now I've got more information. because I understand the process better. I actually went through the process. Once I've gone through the process, I see the different pieces. I say, this is how the pieces actually fit together. I've got a firm understanding now. Now, as I'm moving forward, I'm able to make better choices. I'm not sticking with the original design. I'm not trying to design everything up front. I'm trying to make a couple of reasonable decisions fairly quickly. It's okay if I stumble a little bit, whatever. But then the correct design emerges as you write the code. That said, I totally forgot what I was talking about with Will. Oh yeah. So with Will, we were talking about how, so let me go back to this PayPal Checkout ID example. So here we have this column PayPal Checkout ID. Now you can't see it. There we go. In products. And like I said, we're going to have to triplicate products. We have to have the local version of the product. We have to have a version of the product correctly formatted for PayPal Checkout. And we're going to have a version of the product correctly mapped out for other services potentially. I at some point I'd like to get Amazon, and then also there's 2 payment service companies that I'm working with. I think both of them have some sort of similar system where you add products into, if you have a subscription, you need to have it tied to a product. So this database could potentially, in some cases, this could become very, very, very wide with lots and lots of IDs. But any IDs that are null could be collapsed. And so the database is actually efficient for fields that are commonly null. It can flatten them out. So you could have a database table that is 100 columns wide, but if the reason that you've organized that is for certain efficiencies, and really it's an enumeration where you're only going to pick one of the 100 columns, then the database collapses the null fields and you get the efficiency of if it were a single field, more or less. So nulls have a specific meaning. Also, the way that they translate into typed languages like Go, null has a specific value. For example, a Boolean can be true or false. Those are the only 2 acceptable values for a Boolean. In the case of null is not false and null is not true, but a database can have a Boolean field that is false or true or null. And null means that there has been no preference set. So whatever the default is should be used until the user sets a preference. And in Golang, you have reference types for Booleans. So you can have a Boolean that is true or false or null. And then you also have, let's see, what are primitive Booleans? I don't know what the correct term would be, but you also have Booleans that can only have a value true or false. So this depending on how you're programming and your database and all that. And then also CRDTs, a completely different topic I'm not going to go into right now. But if you need to sync data between computers, you need nulls. That's very important because you can't delete things. You can't delete something over here and have it disappear over here. You have to send a nothing value, and that's null. So there's a brief lesson on null. I think I might have another one. I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea, but it's so good. I want more. Maybe I should just grab water instead. Anyway, so let's get back to payments. And by the way, Philarn, what are you up to today? Or tonight? No, it's today. You're Aussie. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we don't need to create it at, we don't need to activate it at, we don't need to update it at. If anything, we would just want a signal that it has been refunded in part or in whole. Maybe be able to correlate, say, a refund ID or something of that nature, where it points to something else. But I think payments are definitely different than refunds. If we have another table for refunds, we'll have a refunds table, and when we need to calculate a balance, we would put the balance in the user's profile when the batch job runs, just like a bank. And so you check the balance, and then you check things that have happened in the payments table since the balance was updated, things that have happened in the refunds table since the balance was updated. And then present those. Okay, so I feel good about this now. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to go ahead and do npx connects migrate down. Okay, and these need to go down in a specific order. Right. So let's do this. Payments. Payments. Nothing depends on payments, but payments depends on other things. Lots of things depend on payment services. Subscriptions depend on plans. Plans depend on products. So this should be the way to take it down. So let's try that. Okay, payments does not exist. That's okay because I didn't do it yet. All right, and then also I am going to rename this migration from subscription to, I don't know what to call it. I guess payments. Etc. There we go. So we're going to do migrate up. And then it looks like that didn't break anything. And then we need to, let's see. So a person is going to do an upgrade. And so we have this bit of redirects. I think, yeah, they don't have to be logged in to make a purchase. I hate it when I have to, I've literally stopped the purchase process before because it wants me to create an account. A lot of times these are for sites that are expecting to deal with businesses. We're going to be doing PO orders over and over again. I don't know what PO order stands for. I bet the O in PO order probably stands for order. It's probably purchase order. That's probably what it is. PO order. Anyway, they're sites that aren't meant for you as a consumer to go grab something real quick. They're meant for businesses that need a resupply, but sometimes it's a rare part or something. And then I'm like, heck with it. I'm going to pay $3 more on eBay. So we don't want, the person should be logged in, but as a general rule of how to develop a payment system, I don't want to force someone to have to log in order to complete a payment process. I want to get as little information as possible from them, which might just be their credit card and an email address. Dang it, I do want another one. It's a bad idea, AJ. It's a bad idea. Hey, will somebody please try to talk me out of going to grab another Mountain Dew? I'd really appreciate that. I just have the thirst for it. I'm weak right now. I'm very weak. Okay. So, yeah. So we one of the things I realized that we can do is I actually don't need to seed the PayPal stuff when things go into the database. I can have a canonical representation of the plan and then just have it transformed into that. But I kind of like the idea. I like it and I don't like it because people make mistakes. If you've got a function that does transform, it can make mistakes too because you're writing multiple functions. But anyway, I don't know. For right now, we'll leave that as it is. Okay, so we've created the purchase. They're going to do this thing. We're going to get the redirect. Now on the redirect, it would be nice if we happen to have that the user is logged in. So to do, check if the user happens to be logged in. So what we'll do for that is we have these user endpoints where we have a require user. So what we'd want to do for the redirects then is have a, let's see, redirects. Gosh, I gotta get it sorted out whether I want to deal with plural or singular throughout this API because I'm switching back and forth like a madman. And then we'd have something along these lines: optional user or request user. So there's require user and request user. Maybe that would be better in terms of, but they look too similar visually. It's the same number of letters, I, R, E, yeah, it's too similar. So allow user, that seems a little too weird. Track user sounds a little too creepy. I think I'm just going to go with optional user. It's not the right, it ought to be a verb, but it gets the point across. Okay. Oh, okay. Actually, we don't have to worry about this because the way that I'd set this API up is that it always adds it. If the user presents a token, it will check that the token is valid. And if it isn't, it will reject it. But if the user doesn't present a token, then there is no user. So this is, yeah. So if the user happens to be logged in, even at this point, so let's say create request. So we should create a subscription at this point, and if we do know that we have a user, then we should fill out that information before we do a purchase. And if we have a database error, we want to stop the purchase because we'd rather, well, do we? Probably. That's a question, because in the case of PayPal, I think we do, because PayPal doesn't give us very good tools. For example, as far as I can tell, PayPal does not allow us to list subscriptions, so we got to get things right on the first try. PayPal does not. It is. I'm kind of having trouble wrapping my head around how little security there is in their flow. There's no signatures. There's no documentation on how to verify the tokens. There are tokens, but there's no documentation that I can find on how to verify the tokens. There's no way that I can find. There's no way to list subscriptions. Maybe there's a way to list payments. But anyway, with where I'm at right now, once this goes through, and I've got, so, and this is not really a purchase, kind of sort of is, whatever. But now, let's see, are we using purchase get plan? So purchase save subscription, purchase.subscription.create. I don't know. So user fk could be rec.user.sub if it exists. So there's going to be a rec. There may or may not be a .user. And so then this is, we're not supposed to put undefined here. Null. So we can have it be null, but we shouldn't have it be undefined. Null lets it know that we were specifically requesting null. Undefined, it will perceive as an error because it'll say, it looks like you tried to do something here, but you didn't specify what you wanted to do. That's the right thing to do here. So we could have I don't think we're actually going to get an ID for this thing. If I remember correctly, and let me go look at the documentation. If I remember correctly, we don't get an ID for it until it's approved. And I could be wrong about that. Okay, that's subscription integration, subscriptions. Let's see, create subscription. Trying to remember. Okay, we do get back an ID. And we do get back approval pending. Okay. So, and I also remembered another thing that I want to do, which is make sure that I'm using, putting UUIDs into the database, not, because one thing I realized is that if I rely on the behavior of the UUID being generated by the database, then I'm excluding MySQL. And although MySQL is a terrible database that nobody should use, it is a database that many people do use. And so, I don't want to exclude people from being able to do that. So I am going to update the migrations to remove the default value on the UUID and instead just do this everywhere. I need to do it. Speaking of which, let me go check on that. I think under lib user, do we have UUID? Yeah, we have UUID right there. So I'm going to come back here. This, what is this? Is this app.js? Yeah, app.js ultimately, I prototype in app.js, but ultimately app.js should only be routes. There should be no code in app.js. Well, other than initialization code. There should be no controller or model logic. It should just be, even this stuff right here. All of this I want to collapse and put into, all the functions should go into something under lib. That way we have really nice, clean, and creedsofcraftsmanship.com, Dave Cheney talks about this. The other guy who talks about this, no, it wasn't Dave Cheney, sorry. It was the guy that I can't remember his name. The talk is what I learned after 8 years of writing web APIs in Go. I think that's the name of the talk. But he talks about this. And you see people do this. It's a common pattern that emerges, that people discover over time, is that having all your routes in one file is good. Okay, we're going to put the UUID in here. And yeah, we got the UUID v4. There we go. So we're going to put user in there if we can. And then we're going to put in PayoPal Checkout ID. In the case of the subscription, it's only going to be one. In the case of product, all of the IDs that we're going to support are going to be filled out. In the case of the subscription, they're not going to subscribe through Stripe and through PayPal and through Align Pay or VeriPay or whatever. Okay. But this is purchase.id, I think. And what else do I need to fill out here? So we can go ahead and fill out created at, although every database supports that, so I don't know that it's really necessary. I don't think there's any database that doesn't support that. And it blows my mind. It blows my mind that MySQL does not have support for scalable IDs. That it doesn't have a default value for random IDs, because auto increment, in case you're not aware, you can only use auto. You don't ever use auto increment. I don't even want to go into it. Just don't do it. The reason that you can't use auto increment is that it doesn't scale. The moment that you try to have 2 instances of a database or 2 instances of a service, auto increment will fail, because inevitably 2 users will, be created at the same sequence order before a sync happens, and then IDs will clash, and It's stupid. The whole database gets out of sync and messed up. Okay, what was I doing here? I was going in here to have, I don't know, I said purchase dot subscription dot, so this is a thing now. And what I say dot create is going to be an async function, and we're going to have some stuff in it. Oh, I did want to look at a couple of things. I want to go back in the users file. I want to find an example of the insert that we're using. So I'm just going to copy this as an example. Okay, it's that simple. Cool. So this would be what the subscriptions is going to look like. Subscriptions. Okay, and then here, this is where we do the uuid.v4, not out there. Yeah, trying to keep things a little bit encapsulated here. Oh, not there. Sorry, I'm jumping between files and I'm putting things in the wrong places. This, whoops. So we also need, let's move this back. Okay, and that, we do want to pass in the user information, PayoPal checkout information. There's probably some other information we need to pass in. Nope, dang it. I keep on going into the wrong files. Here we are. This is the right file to be in. And, oh, we already got the UUID thing up there. We're good. Okay. So, but what... That's such a long word. I think I'm just going to shorten it to S. That'll be good enough for now. Okay, and then what? So S dot user how was I doing? User FK. A lot of people like to use user ID. I also do that, but sometimes it's nice to use FK for the foreign key and just reserve ID for its own table or for things that are external IDs. All right, what were the other things we need to do? PayoPal Checkout ID is going to be PayoPal Checkout ID. At this point, we only support PayPal, so it's got to be that one. In the future, we can add the or null. Let me go back into the database migration. No, I don't want to look at the user table. I want to look at the payments, etc. Subscriptions. All right, so we could have an email address, maybe. So I want to allow for that. I'm just going to copy this real quick. Timestamps I don't need to copy. The end at, it seems that we should know at this point already. So email plan FK. Okay, so we do need to know what the plan FK is, and we need to know what the payment service is. So I'm just going to keep these. Oh, yeah, I see what I was doing there. I may want to go back to, for consistency's sake, all right, payment service. Yeah, for consistency's sake, I might want to go back to PayoPal Checkout ID for subscriptions because I'm going to be using that in other places. But technically, I guess I don't need it right now, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. So it's either going to be a user or that. And then we do know that we need the plan FK. And that can't be null. So email, there we go. Payment service. It's got to be one of the payment services. And then external ID is going to be s.external ID or s dot pay. Yeah. That's what it is. So to do, maybe just move back to PayoPal Checkout ID. And then we actually get rid of the payment service channel. I don't know. We'll see. But it's okay for now. It doesn't break anything to be there. But I need to make sure I get the plan over here. And then what happens? Seems, let's see, UUID. Yeah, we don't even need an insert and fetch because we can just, boom, there we go. We got the UUID. And this also helps us with some of the database agnosticism. I don't know if that's really the right word for this, but first of all, I don't think there's much value in trying to target multiple databases. The only reason that I think you would target multiple databases is if you have some sort of product that for some reason you can't deliver the product to the customer as an in-a-box solution. And if you're trying to garnish open source community around a product, then oftentimes, well, I mean, the most popular ones, they just work with one database and that's it. But there are a lot of fairly popular ones that work with multiple databases. But generally, you just use Postgres, because Postgres, Amazon Redshift has a Postgres adapter. CockroachDB is a Postgres adapter. Most of the popular larger databases, when you scale beyond Postgres, if you scale beyond Postgres, most of the other database systems seem to have a Postgres adapter, so you just stick with Postgres your whole way through. Or you use the enterprise Postgres. But open source is weird because people tend to, even I myself do this, people tend to jump from using a free open source product to using a paid proprietary product rather than paying for the open source project. Maybe some of that is because the open source project isn't as good of quality because it hasn't been getting payments. Whereas the proprietary product has always been paid, and so it's always got that investment in it. But people tend to make the jump in weird ways. Rather, the people are going to pay for yeah. Anyway, so I need to make sure that the plan is right here. Where was I going with that? This one right here. Okay, so where was plan ID? And maybe I'll just call this plan FK. No. Checkout ID. No. That's not plan. See, this is one of the cases where having the FK makes sense because anywhere I use ID, I'm not referring to the same thing. If I'm FK, I know it's local. So external ID for this is going to be purchase ID. Payment service is going to be PayoPal Checkout. Oops, excuse me again. And what do we say? Plan FK is going to be plan.uuid. And then email is going to be see. So let's say I do let email equals rec dot. Oh, this is a get, so I'm not going to have the email in this. Well, let's just pretend. Let's say that rec.query.email. Let's say that we're doing that. And then that would be or empty string, and then we would be using say .to lowercase, and then I don't necessarily know that it matters that we do validation of email here, because what's going to happen is they may give us an email address. Well, I guess we wouldn't want to throw it away. But the email address that we may end up with multiple email addresses here. Let's think about this. So this one is going to be or null, right? So email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me go back into the database migration itself. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's 5 because UUID is auto-generated. All right, so we're good there. And then in purchases, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have same 5 things throughout. And these are all the same. All right, so I've created that now. Now I need to have I need to have purchase dot create in of itself, which really, I don't know. I want this to be dot payments. The name purchase, I think, is going to get replaced with something different. Maybe shopping cart or payments. Maybe it is. Maybe there's just payments at the top level. Purchase is not quite the right name, but I'm just going to go with it for now. Okay, so we want to do the same thing with payments. We're going to have a UUID that we get to return. Payments, we potentially are going to have a user associated. The email we're going to have associated. The plan, maybe. This would be optional. And then product. Okay, here's the question. A payment may belong to a subscription. It can only belong to a plan if it belongs to a subscription. So that means that it's not a plan FK, it's a subscription FK, subscription. Yeah. Because the only way, but then we run into the same problem here. A payment is going to be tied to a payment service, yes. And it's going to be tied to an ID on that payment service. It could be tied to a product without a subscription. So we're going to say or null here. Or null. So, and you can make complex rules in a database because let's say there should be a rule that either you must have a subscription or you must have a product. You can't just pay to pay. Well, that's not true either, because you could have an overdue balance for some reason, and it could relate to multiple products. But we'll try to track this in a way. Yeah. But let me finish that first thought though. So there are scenarios where you say, well, it has to either have this type of ID or it has to have that type of ID. If you run into that situation, that's not something that can be easily checked as a constraint. That one of these two must not be null, which means that you could normalize your database further. Normalizing meaning that you could make your database more mathematically pure. But the rules are made to be broken. You should know the rules. You should understand normal forms and how to make a database perfect. But you should also know when to, for practicality, break those. And this is one of those situations where I would say it would make sense to break it. But actually, as we talked about earlier, you could make a payment that's not related to a subscription or a product, because the subscription and the product is going to add negatives. The payments aren't going to be one-to-one. There's going to be subscriptions and products. And I got to remember this for when I'm going to do a presentation on creating a payment system. And let me just go ahead and put that in here right now. So creating a payment system. There's no one-to-one relationship between products, services, products, and payments. That's something that should be here. And then, so in short, user requests a product, user promises to pay, payment is, let's see, authorization. Let's see, promises to pay and is able to pay. What was it? Price is weighed against user's account. And then, what is it saying here? Payments are clear the balance in part or full. Yeah, that's, there we go. That's something I'm just going to put in there for now. Yeah, so payment doesn't have to relate to these things. And a payment really, so this is where we'd say this is a pretty tight constraint. A payment better be related to either a user or an email. I think where we might want to make this non-negotiable, I'm not sure, is the email. Or we could say a phone number. But I don't think that it's worth trying to make this perfect. Because what we could do to make it perfect is we could pull this out into another table. So like we have payment service here and external ID, what we could pull this out into is a identifier type and identifier value. And so an identifier type might be email or user FK is the identifier type, and then the identifier value would be the foreign key itself or the email. And then in the other table, this would be a foreign key reference. And then this way we could make this so that we guarantee that this could not be null. We could create a field that is not nullable. But then the trade-off is that you end up with, well, I think this, if there's ever a situation where it's possible that neither of these could exist, which there shouldn't be, but if somehow that situation did arise, you'd want to record the payment regardless with the timestamp and all that. So one could still make the case that, but then you could just put in a fake email address such as unknown@example.com, and that would be a way to work around that, and then you'd handle all the cases. So, there's that. Anyway, let's see what to do next. I kind of like that idea. So I'm just going to put in the comments here, alternate idea. Identifier type, such as user FK, email, phone, and then identifier value, ABC123, John Doe @example.com. So, And I think there's actually a third way to go about this, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But with most things in life, there's a triangle. You can have it cheap, you can have it fast, or you can have it good. Is that one of them? With most things in life, there's a trade-off where you have three different options. So you can have it cheap and fast, or you can have it good and fast, or you can have it, what was the third option? Fast and good. So you've got some axes to choose from. That pattern shows up in life a lot. And this particular problem is one of those where I think there's a third choice, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But there's probably more than three choices, but the additional ones can be ruled out as not as good as the top three. Anyway, okay, so we got that taken care of. We got some payments. And it would be nice to have some tests for that. Oh. And this needs an await. I don't know if there's anything that we can do with that subscription ID. I suppose there is something that we could do, which is that we could, oh no, catch-22. So we could put it in here. We could put in the return value our subscription ID, but that's not necessary because we're going to get PayPal's ID back anyway. And so we still have a good enough way to reference it through the external ID. Okay, now I want to go back and look at the database migration one more time to see what's nullable and what's not nullable. So payments, product FK is not nullable, but it should be. And subscription FK is going to be nullable. And user is nullable and email is nullable. Just putting this in multiple places, whatever. Save comment. All right, we're going to have an amount paid. We're going to have currency code. We're going to have payment service. We're going to have receipt ID. Oh, so that's not external ID in this case. It's receipt ID. So the subscription. All right, let's go back to where was... Okay, this is receipt ID. I wish I could think of a better name for the whatchamajig. By the way, one of the things that, this is a little off topic, but still on topic with the idea of having event logs and such. One of the things Ethan Garofalo says, which, by the way, I'm going to make a note right now, because he should be one of the upcoming Who to Follows. Let's see. I don't know where I put the Who to Follows. Okay, so he talks about how we tend to write these web applications, and there is a sense of consistency when everything is create, update, list, delete, read, all, get. There's certain words that we use over and over again. One of the things that he says that I really like, but I'm not sure I'm ready to apply it to commit to it in my development. But I think it would make grepping through code easier. Anyway, let me say what it is to use the verb form of what actually happens. So you don't create a subscription. A user subscribes. So rather than having purchase.subscription.create, we would have user.subscribe and user.purchase and so on and so forth. So rather than centering, I think this may be, I need to look up actor model and understand it better, but that might be related to actor model as opposed to CRUD. And maybe I'll try it out for this. Maybe I'll do a refactor step later. But it does make sense. And then it definitely makes sense when you talk about event logs, because you do want to be able to look for events that are named after the thing that happens. User subscribes, user purchases or buys or whatever. Because if you grep through logs for create, you're going to find a lot of those, or delete or whatever. If you look for subscribe and unsubscribe, those are going to be much more specific. So trying to work with language that is more on point, I can see some good in that. Anyway, we don't need that subscription FK, so I'm getting rid of it. And we're going to get the approval URL. We're going to pass it along. So the redirects is taken care of. What we also want to take care of, though, is the webhook. So on the webhook, we're going to want to update the subscription and, if we can, a payment. I don't know how we're going to link those, though. We'll see. We'll see how we can link them. But first, let's go to this. Let's see, checkout. Or do we want to do webhooks? I kind of want to do webhooks first, because the checkout return is the thing that's most likely to happen, but it's also a thing that requires me doing more work on the front end with the router, and I'd rather delay that for later. So I think if I can handle both the subscription webhook and the payment webhook and call that good for the night, I'd be in a good place, and this had been a really good episode. Okay, webhooks, PayPal checkout. We're going to get here. We're going to see what the webhook is. I wish I had kept an example of the webhook. I think that if I go into the dashboard, if I'm not mistaken, so sandbox accounts, let me just refresh this. Log in the dashboard. Okay. Oh, excuse me and my yawning. No. Blah, 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 blah. Log into the dashboard. Okay, we'll log into the dashboard. I don't know why I kept on not logging into the dashboard. I need to log in the dashboard as a real account. Okay. And then from here, I need to go to webhook, either webhook events or webhook simulator. Oh, cool. Hey. That's great. Does it give me the data? Hey, it gives me the data. Huzzah. This is wonderful. All right, so that was a payment webhook. And this was subscription activated. So we're going to have subscription created, which I don't care too much about because we're not going to get any interesting information here, and also that we don't already have. And we don't know when this is going to come, because webhooks, sometimes they come immediately. Sometimes they come within the second. But sometimes they don't come for a couple of minutes. It's all about batching and queues and whatever's going on in other parts of the system. So We have event type here. We have resource. And then we have transmissions. I wonder what that's about. Event version, transmissions. Response, headers. Okay, so my guess is that it will try to retry a webhook if it fails. So this is showing how many times did it try. It'll probably have an exponential back off. So it tries immediately that second if the queue is up for it. Then it tries in 5 minutes. Then it tries in 2 hours. Then it tries in 24 hours. Then it fails. Before, it wasn't looking like I was getting multiple tries on a failure. But this is subscription created. But we already have that event right here. So this, what I'm calling purchase, that's not the right name for it. Maybe I could call it PPC sub, purchase, PPC sub. There we go. I don't know if that's any better, but whatever. We'll go with it. Okay, so yeah, that one, the webhook is great, especially for event logging, which essentially is what this is. This is an event log, has the event type, and the event types are pretty well scoped. I would actually like to get Ethan's review of this. I'm sure that he would make some changes, but I think he might also say that it's a good system, that it's well thought out. I think it was invented, it's not quite the right word. I think it was engineered by Braintree, and then PayPal adopted it when it bought them. It probably bought them for this purpose, to have a better API, because it was probably easier for them to buy someone and integrate their backend than to take old engineers with old ways of doing things and then try to create a new sane system for the modern web. Although now some people are moving to GraphQL, and I hope it's a fad. GraphQL is just so overly complicated. I just prefer simplicity. Yeah, it does have some advantages in terms of auto-populating, but this is the thing. It exists, and so people will use it because it exists. But we could have had the same benefits of auto-completion and good documentation, etc. We could have those same benefits with the existing simpler system. But a lot of times people like to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And a lot of times it makes sense because you can get better branding on something being new than on something being improved. So if we came out with a system that made REST really easy to use and auto-generated documentation and auto-generated auto-completion, etc., it won't necessarily... GraphQL had somewhat of a first mover's advantage in being a completely new incompatible syntax that's its own wonky thing, as opposed to not having a first mover advantage if the same people had used the same principles and same engineering skill to just make the system that already works great, if they perfected the system that already works great. Instead, GraphQL is way overcomplicated. Anyway, that's a different rant for a different time. So here, basically, if we're gonna need to check rec.body.event type, and we might switch on this. In fact, let's see. Ultimately, I don't think I'm going to implement more than 10 of these events, if that. If I wanted type linting, I wonder how we could do this in a way that I could get the advantage of type linting. I don't think we could. Well, not without having a lot of superfluous code generation, which in JavaScript, in languages where that makes sense, Go, Rust, code generation, huzzah, it's great. But in JavaScript, all that has to go across the wire or go somewhere. It doesn't compile away. So I'd rather not have code generation stuff. What I mean by that is we could enumerate all 100 events that this could ever be and have a big long switch statement. Or we could just say there's purchase dot event handlers, you know, do this sort of thing. The one advantage the switch statement gives is when you grep through the code, you can figure out where those things came from. But here we could do let handler equal like so, and we could say if not handler, then we could do ignoring PayPal webhook. So that's the one. Let me bring this up. So it depends. I think my years of wisdom tells me, although I wouldn't want to do it in every place, it actually probably is better to do the switch statement, because I've run into cases where not being able to grep for an event name is frustrating. I've run into that multiple times. And so I actually am kind of on the side that we should do the switch. rec.body.event type. Yeah. My software engineering brain is telling me this is a better bang for buck. Because again, people are so contradictory. You know, they want to optimize for keystrokes and use stupid things like arrow functions. But then they use TypeScript. Like, what kind of contradiction is that, you know? So we want to catch these two events right now. And then we want to break whatever we're doing there, break, and then we're going to have the default. And so, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that I talked myself into this, but it's the right thing to do. So I guess in all cases, we're going to end up doing this. And I'm going to change this to an info. Because console.logs I use where I want to delete them. Console.info I use where I want to keep it. And I would actually want this going into the system logs. I don't think any sensitive information would be going in there. I don't think there's anything I need to sanitize going in there. And I'm going to comment this out just as a talking point. But yeah, I've been bitten enough times by that yeah. At first I was thinking about because of the type linting, but then the reality is It's a pain in the butt. I don't want to have to deal with it. That problem of grepping. I like to be able to grep through code and find things. I want subscription, activated. I want to see that event and know where that event came from and why. This is good. This is a good thing to do. I made a good choice. Proud of me. Okay. And maybe we do call this activate. But here's part of the question is this: what do we do? Because we're actually crossing the streams here. Because we're gonna have these webhooks for PayPal Checkout, but we're gonna have the similar webhooks potentially, or their equivalent, for Amazon or for whatever else. So I want to have this purchase subscription.activate to be relatively agnostic to the service that I'm using, because I know I'm going to be using at least two personally. But I also don't want to bloat a lot of stuff here. So we'll just see how this goes. But subscription dot, I think it was details. So I opted to follow the PayPal API rather than use the more conventional Git. Trying to stick closer to the source material, So resource dot payment mode, transaction fee, protection eligibility, ID. I'm a little bit unsure. Billing agreement ID. That might not be a bad thing. So let me, that's I, which I think was the same thing as a subscription. Let's go to look at subscription created. And let's go look at resource here. What does it call it? ID. And it's got this RAF something yet. Okay, so let's copy that. And then let's go look over here under activated. And where do we find that? ID. Okay, so resource and then ID. Resource.id. ID just happens to be down at the bottom. Okay, so we're going to go with rec.body. Well, I don't like to do it that way. So let's do this. EV equal, well, sure, event equals rec.body. Okay, I'm going to go with event.event type. And then we're going to go with resource equals rec.body.resource, which probably is going to exist. And so then we can say resource.id here. One of the things that I don't like about let is that you can't use it. If you want to use it inside of a case, you have to do this, which, well, no, technically it needs to be this. So if I wanted to say, I don't want to call it generically resource, I want to call it subscription. And I might just leave this here as a demonstration. But this is what you have to do inside of a case statement for let to work. You gotta create a scope, which is just so wonky do. But I'm going to put this here just so, just as a talking point. Not something I'd normally do. And the break needs to be on the outside. Because, so you could do this. So this is actually valid JavaScript. You'll notice this doesn't give me an error. So you can do this indefinitely, actually. Very little known feature of JavaScript. We have labels, We don't actually have goto, but we have labels. And you can break on a label in JavaScript. So I could label this switch as A, and then I could call this break A. So this is legit. Don't recommend that you do it. Hardly anybody knows about that. I didn't even know about that until I think last year or this year. And I've seen people abuse it. But I will be surprised if you ever run into anybody using that in JavaScript, because the number of people that know about it are so few. And it didn't even make sense. It's one of those things that was kind of happenstantially in the language, but didn't have a use case until very, very recently, when they started changing the way the language works, and the way that they broke the language happened to make certain features that were there active again. Even though they, yeah. Okay. So, let's see here. And then, yeah, we want to get payment. Oh, so this one, what did I want to get the details for? Subscription equals, I almost wonder, maybe I don't even need that. Oh, did we get, let me check something out here. Okay, we do get subscriber and email address. There we go. Subscriber, email address, name. Okay, good. Let subscriber, okay, let user equal rec.body.subscriber, right? Or is it .resource.subscriber? Let's check and see. .resource subscriber, okay. Okay, and I don't have to grab the details. That's something I'd need to do here. Okay, but the problem with doing it this way, where I've got this switch bit here, is that everywhere, if I want to be consistent with the way I'm doing it, then I need to have that same switch here, and that same switch here, and that same switch in several other places. But tomato, potato. Like I said, it's probably worth it. Subscription. Considering better to duplicate information and be overly clear than to have missing information. But again, it doesn't feel very JavaScripty to do it this way. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. I guess if I could come up with another way where, if it was documented really clearly where that thing is used, or because then basically what I'd want, if I did it this way, then what I'd want is, billing dot, so let me just put this here. What I'd want to do is billing dot subscription dot activated, XXX YYY handled here. So yeah, if I was going to do that, then I'd still want a comment ending up listing it out. Now the comment, if it was web code, or browser code, which this isn't, then the comments would get stripped out when it's minified. I don't know. So maybe this really is still the best way to go about it. All right. So anyway, we want to activate the subscription, and we're going to put email is user.email address, I think is what that ends up being. So at this point, we can't really log the user in. But wait, do we get the user email? I think we get the user email even back when the subscription is created. Dang it. Let's log back in. I was hoping they were bluffing about me being logged out, and it still had the data that was visible on the page was still available to me. Okay. So with subscription created, do we get the email address right then? We get resource, we get links. No, they didn't approve. No, this makes sense. We don't get their email address yet because they didn't approve. So they did not yet consent. So that's why we don't get their email address there. That makes perfect sense. But we do get their email address when they have approved. Hey, I don't know. Is that still you, Thelarn, or was that somebody new that just popped in? But anyway, I'm AJ. Who are you? And what are you up to tonight? And what brings you to the channel? Okay. So we're going to activate the subscription. I need to think for a second. Really, activating the subscription is just an update, but it's a little bit more specific. A type of update. What we're going to do. So here we would get, activated at is going to be set by that. Do we have a way to cross-reference the user at this point? And do we have a guarantee from PayPal that the user is verified? That's a good question here. Is, does PayPal guarantee a verified email address? Because that's one of the things that we got to be careful about with this. Because I'd like to say, yeah, if they just paid money, log them in. That's good enough authenticated. If they put in their credit card, they logged into where their money is, that's a good enough verification for me. But just because we get an email from PayPal does not mean that it is the email address that they used with PayPal. I don't know how PayPal's system works. Maybe they can have 5 different email addresses. Yeah, they can. They can because I do. So are you guaranteed that the email that you get back is only one that's verified? Can they not make payments until they're verified? I don't know. So that could be a security vulnerability if you just assume that because PayPal gives you an email address that it's been verified. I don't want to assume that. But I would like to ask PayPal's customer support that. In fact, I think I will I'm going to throw that out there right now. Just as a matter of keeping track of it, I will. So billing subscription activated resource.subscriber.email address. Resource.subscriber.email address. So I'm going to open up PayPal right now in my Twitters, and I'm going to say, hey, at PayPal Dev. In webhook events that have an email address such as billing subscription activated resource.subscriber.email address. Oops. Which gives Yeah. So, hey, PayPal Dev and webhook events, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how to not make things show up as... I'm going to bring this over so you can see it in just a second here. This annoys me to no end. I do not know how to escape. I don't know how to escape this. See it. What do you do? What do you do? No, I don't want you to link that. That's not real. But it wants to link it. So what do you do? Anyway, in webhook events that have an email address, such as let's do this. In webhook events, have an email address. Yeah. Is it guaranteed that the email address has been verified? Is it secure? Is it safe to use for user authentication? Well, not. That's enough right there. Is it guaranteed that the email address has been verified by PayPal? Or is it possible for the user to make a payment before verification? Whatever. I'll just stick to that. That's good enough. Okay, so there's my question. They won't give me an answer. They're going to tell me to DM them and blah, 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 blah. But this is more just so when I actually do go to interact with their developer support and create tickets and all that nonsense, that I can go through my Twitter feed and just copy and paste everything. Okay. So I see some more people have joined in. Hello. Nice to have you here. I'm AJ. Who are you? What brings you to the stream today? I'd like to know. I like to have a little bit of conversation when we can. And then right now I'm going through webhooks and figuring out what information I can add to a subscription that I am activating. I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything else. I need to go take a look. Let me go back to the database again, the database model here in Connects, and let's look at subscriptions. If I wanted to activate this, what would I like to do? Well, if I know the user's email address for sure is verified, then I could look them up in the system, or I could create a user. So that's something I need to get verification from PayPal. And actually, maybe, I should have checked the documentation beforehand, but let's see. No, they don't have, do they have Webhook Simulator? My account. Let me go back here to this documentation page. Do we have webhooks here? We do have webhooks here. List of webhooks. Contain a webhook object. Okay, let's go look at a webhook object. Webhook ID. Do we have subscriber? No. Okay. I don't think we're going to find that information here. For all of its auto-generated goodness. And it is nice that things are organized and that they are consolidated and they're cross-referenced. But it is a little bit difficult to navigate the PayPal API because of, in a way, because of how well organized it is. It's difficult to use because it's a little too well organized. Because I'll be able to find the place where they define the subscriber object. It'll be in common object definitions, but it's not gonna be really definite. So when we go to subscriber here and I click on this, email address of the payer. See, most of these are not very descriptive. They don't give you much information. So, whatever. Okay, so let me get back to the problem at hand here. So, really all I can do is add an email and put an activated at, and then I could put a putier over the user FK to say maybe we can add this. So to do add user FK by email if email is verified. But I don't think that we're going to be able to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go into my lib purchase, where again the abstraction here isn't correct yet, but whatever. It's what I'm working with. It's what, it's the direction that I'm moving. So we're going to say activate, and then just going to take S and pass it through. We're going to do await connects dot, I think it's dot update subscriptions. No. I'm going to have to go look at the docs real quick. This will be pretty simple though. Where did my connects? Oh, it's over here. I already got it open over here. I can close it over here. I could probably close out a few of these things. Close out query string, close out, remove catalog, close out. I'm going to make this article. Okay. Let's go look at the syntax here. Update. That is such a bad example. Decrement balance. No. Just no. If there's a balance, you better be tracking it. Well, I guess it could be a pre-calculated balance, in which case that might be appropriate. Probably not. Let's see. Update data. Where update? Yeah, okay. So it is interesting. It allows you, to do things in somewhat of a different order. So we're going to say subscriptions, update, and then really, let's see, object.assign. We're going to take an object. We're going to take S or an object, and we're going to take activated at, and then I think we can just do new date. I hope. And so And S might have email. I guess I should, let's see, what would it be? At param. And then what, email string, is that how it works? I just had this, I had this up in a cheat sheet over somewhere. Let me go check real quick. Alrighty. Let me bring this over here. Just 1 second. And you'll be able to see it as well. I've been doing my JS doc wrong again. Okay, there's a couple different ways to do this. This is not the ones I want. I want the one that gives this. Yes. At param. That's the one I want right there. Okay, I think this is the one that's good. Hey, there we go. Mark the subscription is active and assign a user. So we could have here user FK string. These are the two things that are acceptable. And then does this return anything? I don't think so. I think basically just pass fail. And then where, let's see, I think I do want to put in, what type of ID do I get to put in here? Hold on. Sorry, I got distracted. Oh no. Oh no, they're adding generics to Golang. Bye-bye, Golang. It was fun while you lasted. No, it's not that bad. No, it is that bad. I'm not going to let go of Golang, but the ecosystem is about to get really trashy. I mean, think about it. It's called generics. It's in the name. Generics make programming languages worse, and they make the ecosystems worse because people start writing crap utility libraries, and then people start depending on crap utility libraries. Okay, but the where here, I guess what we want this to be is okay, the problem here is that I don't know how am I going to find the ID? As it currently stands, I don't know if I can. Let me go look in here again. Okay, subscriptions. We have external ID. Hmm. 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 Can we limit the update to 1 or have it throw an error if there's more than one? Probably not. Looking at the wrong thing there. Not really sure how to go about this. EID. So let's say at param string external ID. External ID. So external ID is external ID. I don't know if that is good enough. So the thing that I don't like about this I don't know how else this could work. Yeah, it's gotta be activated by the external ID. It has to be. Which almost makes me want to scope the external ID with the name of the payment service to guarantee that there's not collisions, because you could have two payment services that both choose the ID 10,007, for example. I don't think any sane service would do that. They'd use random IDs. But no, I think PayPal uses timestamps, it looks like, as part of their IDs at least. So, to do, should external be prefixed with PayPal at? Yeah, that's kind of a question. I don't know. Doesn't quite sit well with me. What we do need to know is, I think that typically update is going to return the number of things that change. Returning method specifies which column should be returned by the insert update methods. Okay. Let's go look back at update real quick. So what does this return? Outputs. I see what it outputs. What do I get back? Because I'd like to know sorry, let me finish my thought there. I'd like to know how many columns are modified, so I know if there's been an error, because if we have 0 columns modified, to me that's an error. see if there's a way to know. Well, I guess what I'll do here is I'll just say let result equal, and then I'll console.log debug result. Again, I don't use console.debug unless I actually am putting in some sort of debug flag and it stays in the code. Console.log is for things that I delete from the code. I find and replace them to delete them at some point. Okay. So to do throw error if 0 rows affected. And what do we do with the payments then? So are we just creating a payment when the payment thing comes through? P, then maybe it's related to subscription and maybe it's not. Let me go back to looking at my event log here, which is handy dandy. Already logged me out again, huh? Seems shorter than last time. All right. And I need to get to bed here soon. So here's our handy dandy event log. This is a payment. And we have, I think somewhere we have a payer. We have an amount that was paid. That's great. Amount.total. Resource.amount.total. Do we have a payer? So this is interesting. Because here a payment happens, but what? I mean, resource, amount, payment mode, transaction fee, links, ID, completed, invoice number, success, transmissions. Oh, this I'd have to say is pretty dumb. And the reason that I say it's pretty dumb is that it's pretty dumb. Okay, let me go back to subscription created. Okay, we have this ID for the subscription being created. I'm going to copy this. And then, so here's, okay, so billing agreement ID is the same there. Wait, when we activated this, was this the same there? So wait, but here we have a billing agreement ID too, right? Or was I just looking at it wrong before? Okay, so we have a billing agreement ID. Interesting. Well, I'll be interested to see how the one-off payments go. All right, so we're going to have resource billing agreement ID is going to be the subscription ID. So I guess billing agreement ID is multi-purpose because it could be either the subscription or probably something else. Let's see if we can wrap this up and test it here quickly, fairly quickly. Let's see, we got payment, and I do have the right ID, right? Payment sale completed. Okay. And then we've got payment dot external ID payments dot create payment service. So email we don't know. We can find that later on. Okay, so payment service. It's going to be PayoPal Checkout, Butterfkaus, and then external ID is going to be external. Well, maybe we just leave this in here. Like that. Subscription or to do. What else? But we're not getting the email address from the user here. So that looks like the only useful information we get. Well, we get the amount. So here, amount paid is payment dot amount dot total. So I kind of want to grab, let's see, await ppc dot subscription dot details. Let's do this one here. Let's subscription. And what if that's not found? Then what do we do? Because we still need to handle this in some way. So we still need to catch, and then we need some sort of logging facility for this type of error. Because we definitely need to handle it in any possible way that we can. So console.error, couldn't find associated subscription, which this is going to be true the very first time that we do a non-subscription, when it's just a one-time payment. All right, so let's say we get the subscription. Then after that, subscription.id, we have to find it in our database. So wait purchase.subscription.get. And really, I just want to get the ID. So I think there should be a way to get that. And then let's see, we'll have subscription FK. We'll have the receipt ID, which is what we'll call it as a general instruction. Hey, I see some new people joined in. I'm AJ. What's your name? Where are you from? What brings you to the channel tonight? Okay, so that's going to be payment.id, and then let's get the code here to line up. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so this is a little bit more code than what I want in a switch statement, but we'll deal with it for now. All right, so if we get the sale completed, we'll get the resources, the payment, we'll grab the subscription, which should already exist in the PayoPal checkout. From that subscription, really what we're looking for is, well, let's see. Do I want to put it this way? Get ID. Dot catch, and I'm just going to do a dot catch right now. We're going to say return null. Well, yeah, so only that this is really what it should be, is that if we have a dot then, because things went well, then we're going to also get subscription. Then we're going to get the ID. Okay, that would be the more succinct and clean way to write that out. Okay, and I typoed something here. What did I typo? Oh, wait. Oh, I didn't put async in there. All right, good. All right, so I'm going to end up with the subscription FK or null, which is fine. I will definitely have the receipt ID. I'll definitely have the amount paid. What other information do I get? I get the fee information, which that's good. I actually do want that. So resource.transactionFee.value. Oh yeah, and I want currency code. Currency, is that, did they switch it up on me? Are they using currency code in one place? Yes, they are. Using currency code in one place and currency in another. At least I think it was currency code in the other place. All right, so we got transaction fee. And for right now, let's just assume that payment.transactionFee.value. Let's just assume it's in the same currency, because I wouldn't know what to make of it otherwise. We got the links, we got the ID. We need to make sure we grab that ID. And then there's no other useful information here. There could be in details, but I don't want to worry about the itemized list right now. So receipt ID, yeah. So we're good here if we just create this payment record. So I do need to add transaction fee, which is going to belong to, let's see. So let's say amount paid. If we had the user's email address, we'd want it. Amount paid and currency code make a lot of sense. Then all this stuff is related to, let's see, put that down there. Just I could organize it alphabetically. I'm organizing it logically, as in what's logical to me, which alphabetical is probably a better choice, other than maybe putting IDs up top is nice. Okay, but we can't get the email, and the reason that we can't get the email or the FK, the user's foreign key, is because the subscription ID. Okay, maybe I actually do want more than the subscription ID. let me say here, I want to get that UUID. No, that's good enough. I'm okay with not having the user's email address. I kind of do want to duplicate it there. Let's not do it yet, though. Because it'd be nice to know that I've got a direct association between a payment and a user. That's my concern. So I'm just going to put a to-do here. To-do. We want a direct association between payment. No, I want it bad. I want it bad enough to, let's say we're going to grab the subscription. Yep, okay, that's correct. So this is our subscription versus, I'm going to call this one PPC sub for PayoPal Checkout subscription. Just to kind of distinguish so I don't get confused with things being named similarly. Okay, and then here we can have subscription.uuid. And then here we're going to have subscription.email or null. Actually, the way that I'd prefer to do this, because on the off chance, no, I'm creating this. I'm creating this for the first time, which means that if we have a user foreign key from the subscription, it's going to be the same user foreign key. If we have an email, it's going to be the same email. If we don't have either of those, then we've got a problem. Because we've got a payment that came in that we don't know how it's related to anyone or anything, and that's generally bad. And then this could be related to a product, but it isn't right now, and so that's fine. And again, this block of code is a little bit bigger than what I want it to be, especially inside of a switch statement. Switch statements generally should be 2 to 3 lines code per case. Just grab a variable, do a thing, call a function, get the heck out of there. So this is definitely too much. It deserves to be in its own function. It will go in its own function. But because of the interactions, I don't quite understand. I'm very much into emergent design. You code a little, you understand where the code's going. You code a little more. The red-green refactor, it doesn't work at all. You get it working. You refactor it to be a little better. Okay, so I think this is right. I need to double check my migration because I know that at the very least I'm missing transaction fee, which I think should be part of the payments, because when I go to calculate money that I'm making, I need to know that for certain. Let's see. Let's go back into database migrations. And there I'm in subscriptions. Let's go look at payments again. I do not like that external ID. I just don't know what else to call it. But it bugs me more and more the more I look at it. Okay. Okay, so here we are with payments, product FK, subscription FK. And right now, we're not doing anything with the product FK or the user FK. It's standing for foreign key, which in this particular case where I'm dealing with IDs from other systems, calling my own IDs, UUID and FK, turned out to be a benefit so that I'm not confusing it with the other ones. Okay, so the user one, we've already handled that case. We're fine. Email, we've handled amount paid. We've handled currency code. We've handled payment service is there. Receipt ID is there. Transaction fee looks, I think that's the only one that's missing. And both forms of user and both forms of product association are nullable. So transaction fee is the only thing I actually want to call this service fee. And that's going to be the total service fee. I'm not going to break that down. So I'm not going to call that transaction fee. Call it service fee. Okay. And then I need to go double check that this function in my kind of controllerish logic, payments.create. Let's make sure that all the things are represented here that need to be represented. So user, FK, or null. Which I guess I don't need to do the or null at the top level because it's down in there. Amount paid is not represented here. So let's bring that in. I don't know that I need to reduplicate these. Payment service is represented. Currency code is not represented but ought to be. Yeah, I think I'd rather just be able to pass this in because what I need to do is just add the UUID to it. I don't know if there's anything else I really need to do. Receipt ID, service fee, we need to put that in there too. Service fee, p dot service fee. I don't know why I copied that. There was nothing reusable about it. And then subscription, FK. Okay, and this is all. Yeah, that feels kind of as though really what we're describing is we could just do let payment equals object.assign p.uuid equals like that. And then I think we just say insert payment. And I don't think we need any of the hoopla here. And then let's just paste this into here like so, or not quite like so, because that doesn't turn out right. But, you know, UUID is a string. And let's go ahead. This is a string. Technically, it's a UUID, but I don't remember if JSDoc makes that easy to pronounce as such. Okay, email is a string. I just got almost, I think every single one of these is a string, if I'm not mistaken. So this one's a string. Payment service is a string. Currency code's a string. Service fee is going to be a string. Because we're, we'll see if I end up being wrong. But I think everything's got to be in the same currency code within a transaction. Otherwise, I don't know. I wouldn't know what to make of it. Subscription, yeah, all these things are strings. Okay. And then p.uuid is what we need there. Okay, I think I'm ready to test this now. I think we've got enough of the payment set up. So another thing I want to know, okay, so that should be, if we're doing a create, we definitely should have an or null. Yeah, so this is what I should have. So if not, p.email equals null. And same thing with what? Nah, just let it be slightly leaky in its abstraction. That's okay. It's more explicit to propagate the nulls as needed. Okay, and then here, maybe the same thing. At param, what have we got? Same thing, create equals. Subscription. Bring in the S. SEDO. And then subscription. Okay, and then in here, just start everything with a star, and then replace everything after the colon with string, right? String, 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 string. Okay, so do colon star, colon space, string. Yeah? Good enough. Create a pending subscription to track that something was happening. And really, now that I realize, wait a second, let me go back and take another peek at this. Where was the subscription.create? Application context. Okay, that's not what we're looking at. Email. Is email, the email comes in. So, okay. The reason that we'd want to track that they started it is because the user may be logged in. Deal. In the webhooks, there is no user login. It's completely apart from the user. In the redirects, the user may be logged in. Okay, so that's why we want to track that. All right. Yeah. Oh gosh, it's 2:06. I do need to get to the Betty Buys. All right, let's give it a shot. There's there's a snowball's chance. Could work. All right, that's the real one. We need the beta. Okay. So, well, I actually am going to revert a change that I made, even though it was a good change. Oh, I'm not going to update that yet. I'm not going to update that yet. There we go. Let's just get the settings page back visible again so I can go to it. And then let the PayPal checkout begin. Oh no, internal server error. How sad. Let's go check that out. Unexpected error not found. Oh yes. Yes, I do need to run the database seed. npx connects seed run. Yeah, all right. So as far as Sandbox goes, now I've got duplicates, but that's okay. And there's no way to delete them. Sandbox accounts also do not have a delete method, which kind of makes sense because the production doesn't have a delete method. Anytime you create a product or a plan or a subscription, it is there forever. It is, essentially an event log, a way to go back and see what has happened. Okay, so let's go back again. I don't think there's any additional state being kept here, so we can just go through. All right, and then sandbox.paypal.com, junk account. Sure, we'll log in. And then, sure, we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Let's see what we got. Ignoring subscription created. Oh, I should have logged out some of this other stuff. Ignoring billing plan created. Okay, that's fine. Let's go further down. Oh, good. Couldn't find associated subscription. Get ID is not a function. That makes total sense. Let's make subscription.getID a function. Yes, helps if your functions exist. I do need to add type linting to this project for that very purpose. All right, subscription dot. Well, is it? I don't think I want it to be get ID anymore, right? Because I want it to be. I think I decided. What do I say? Get by external ID. Let me go take a look at that real quick. Where was that get ID at? PayPal, yeah, so get by external ID. That's what I wanted. I guess I could have done a find. Yeah, whatever. We're going to go with this one. We don't need it to be generic. It is a very specific thing we're looking for. Select star from, yeah, this is great. Get by, there we go. And we can just get rid of all this. I don't know if it's useful, except for subscriptions and external ID. External ID. And then we rows await, if not rows length, return, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, looks good. Okay. All right, let's try it again. I don't think I actually need to refresh this, but it doesn't hurt to do it unless it does, because something's broken. Oh, because something else took over the routing. Yeah, I need to fix the routing before too long. All right, we'll go through the process again. And this may have been a very successful session. What should I call these? Sessions, episodes, parts? Nah, I don't like saying the last part. The last session sounds good. I think I should start calling them sessions. I've been calling them episodes. All right, let's take a look. What do we get? All right, billing subscription created. And what was this? Method insert, method select. I think I've got debug turned on. Ignoring webhook, PayPal return. All right. And the problem here, so we've got approval pending. We don't know when that webhook is going to come through. So we're just kind of sitting, watching, waiting as our good friend what's his bucket would say. Okay, result 0. Let me go down here. Hey. So something worked out right. I definitely should have done this a little bit differently, because for debugging purposes, I definitely should still be logging out what event is coming through. Okay, do we have an error there? We do have an error. Service fee. I didn't go down and go back up. Okay. So what I should be doing here is console.log event.event type received PayoPal Checkout webhook. Let's see. I guess that's all right. Okay, and then what was the problem? I think it was just the migration. Yeah, this is what we do. I'm going to do npx connects migrate down, and then okay, why we can't drop products? Why? Oh, right. We need to have that one be deletable. Okay, so we can drop that, and then we can go back up, and then we can go seed run. And now I think we can test and be successful. I do need to get that routing stuff fixed soonish. Who knows? Maybe by the end of the week we'll have all this payment stuff working and deployed. Wouldn't that be nice? I sure think so. Okay. What have we got here? And I want to get rid of this ignoring PayPal webhook. All right. It's all good. All right, this is what I definitely don't like that bit there. So this says activated at where external ID billing subscription activated. Activate. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. That would be completely sensical that it would be broken because this is obviously broken. So subscription dot, was it ID? Let's go check on that. Lib purchases. Whoops. Let me go over here. Let me get out of there first. No, I'll leave that. Activate external ID and S. Yes. So this is okay. All right, so what we should have then, gosh. If affected less than 1, well, 1 not found. Yeah. So we'll just kind of take this idea of the not found and throw that in there for now. But if affected is greater than 1, then we have database consistency. That's DB error. Updated too many records. There we go. Which there's a possibility that happens too because the webhook could get tried twice. It should be idempotent though. Yeah, so actually that shouldn't be possible. And I want to be more specific with this. If 1 not equal, wait, is it affected? Because it's verbified, so it's affected. Yeah. Oops. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heater off here because I'm about to go to bed. I'm just going to throw that now. Where should I throw that? That looks good. And we are now throwing if 0 rows are affected. This is good. Okay. Try it again. Should be able to unit test this and not have to do this crude integration testing over and over again. What is going on here? Uh-oh. I wonder why that took so long. That seemed rather odd. All right, and again. So we got the return. We're going to have to wait probably about a minute. Okay, there's our billing subscription created, which we're ignoring. And then we should see activated, and then we should see paid. Fingers crossed. And we just kind of got to sit around and wait for it. Okay. Oh, well, that's... Uh-oh. Well, that's something that I should have known could happen, but I wasn't expecting. So I'm going to have to think about that one. Because, so what we saw here is that it's possible for the payment to be completed before the subscription is activated, which if I thought that it goes the other way. So this means that it's possible for us to not have an email for the sale by the time it's completed. So I think I'm going to just take a look at this real quick. If we activate, then I think that we should also update anything that depends on that subscription. Okay. So all right, let me think about this. All right, so then here, I don't know if I want to rely on returning, because I would like to do dot returning. Maybe we could do this. UUID. Nope, I don't, because I want affected rows. And then that's going to change the object, and then it's going to be different between different databases. No, we'll just do it this way. We're going to select UUID from subscriptions where external ID is such. So UUID. All right, that's what we're going to get. This should not fail because that just succeeded, so this cannot fail by any logical fashion. And then if we just did an activate, so if s.email or s.userfk, so I guess if neither of these, then we can just return at that point. Otherwise, we're going to take that. Where's our update, Bob? Let me just grab this real quick. Oh, that's the same one right up above there. Okay, great. So we're going to take our payments and then we don't really care how many rows are affected because it may not even exist yet. But we're going to update. So I got to build this out. So let updates equal, and then if s.email, then we need to do updates.email equals s.email. And then same thing with user fk. Payment may be completed before subscription is activated. Shouldn't happen that way, but technically it can happen that way. In the happy path, it doesn't. In the happy, especially because, as we'll do either tomorrow or the next day, depending on how I split up these sessions, because I may return to a different project tomorrow, or a different part of the project rather than just the payments part. Anyway, so assuming we continue on with this tomorrow, during the URL redirect, we will always record the payment information, but since it's possible, we'll record that the subscription was approved, and we'll be able to check that. But since it's possible that the browser might mess up, or there might be some, code that's not working correctly, it could end up that the payments, the payments are completed before the subscription is marked as activated. So in this case, we want to take these updates and then subscription fk, and then UUID. Okay. I don't think there could be multiple payments. Well, there could. So this actually needs a to-do. Check date of subscription. What could happen here? Can we activate the subscription? We could reactivate the subscription because we can deactivate the subscription, which means we can reactivate the subscription. So we actually only want, let's say, where And I'm actually okay with doing this. Okay, so to do, all right, so this is mostly correct. So here's the thing that can happen. A subscription 3 months from now can be deactivated. Then 4 months from now, it can be reactivated. So we don't want, on an activation, we don't want all historical payments to be updated. We only want the most recent payments that are missing the information to be updated. So for historical accuracy, we want to keep the email that was there at the time of the payment there. Now, the user foreign key has got to be added at some point. We'll figure that out later because that's what's going to be consistent. That's not going to be something that's malleable. Once we add the user FK, that's going to stay, and that's going to always be the same. But the email, what email they had 6 months ago, may not be the email that they have now. As I talked about earlier, I have 2 different emails in PayPal for my business. One is PayPal@mybusiness.com. The other is me@mybusiness.com. This makes sense. So whatever email that is showing up as their primary email is only relevant for the cases where something goes wrong and we need to audit. Whereas the user ID, the user FK for foreign key, once that's been added, that's never going to go away. We're not going to transfer a payment to a different user. What we would do is we would insert a transaction record if that were the case. We'd insert a transaction record for both users, one doing a minus and the other doing a plus. So with that said, I feel pretty darn good about this now, that this will end up with the correct result. Since we had something that was working, I should have git stashed this and done a whip commit. I didn't do that. That's bad on me. Let's see, do we have any console.logs we need to get rid of? Oh, looks like there's a bunch throughout here. That probably should be console.info. That's not part of what I was working on today, so I'm just going to let that be. I only want to focus on the things that are what I was working on. That we're not ready to remove yet. So out of the things I was working on today, I don't think we have any console.logs that were added that have not been removed. Okay, so what was my last commit? Whip. Oh, associate user with payment webhooks. All right, cool. So now we're at least tracking the subscription, which means we're tracking the plan, which means we're tracking the product in a roundabout way. So we've got subscription payments are handled, are tracked to the user. It's not the most efficient way. This is why tomorrow I might go back to working on the authentication, because I might want to re-implement the session bit, and so that would not be part of this payments title. This would not be part 8. This would be Bliss part whatever, or maybe auth project part whatever. In any case, we're gonna pretty soon this week we're gonna wrap this up, not wrap this up necessarily, but we're gonna get the redirects working, but we just need to get the user sign in stuff working before that, or maybe we don't. I think actually I can do the redirect stuff without the user sign in working because we don't necessarily need a user account, but we do need email. That's another thing I need to put in here is send email to user. So that it kind of still goes with the payments from the perspective that, but I kind of want to put that after, not as a payment thing, but as a, well, not as a PayPal thing, but just as a general payment thing. We want emails to go out to people when they purchase something to confirm, yeah, hey, that thing you bought, it's yours. Good job. This is exciting. This is exciting stuff. Good times. All right. Well, thanks for joining in. For those of you that joined in, for those of you that didn't join in, if you're absent, please raise your hand. If you liked this, go ahead and give it a like, because if you like what you like, you get more of what you like. Otherwise, thumbs down, because every thumb helps. And if you are interested in subscribing, please click the bell to get personalized recommendations so you get just the good stuff. And then check out the doobly-doo for related and unrelated links, including what I mentioned at the beginning, which is the who to follow, which today I actually gave the link for Matt Holt, and I mentioned Jonathan Colton, who does Code Monkey, among other amazing songs. Your Brains, Creepy Doll, Skull Crusher Mountain, just to name a few. Good stuff. All right. So I'm glad that this one was not a slog. I didn't feel like this was a slog. I felt like I had energy the whole way through, and we got really cool stuff done. Yeah. Hopefully you felt the same. Adios.